All right, everyone, welcome to Winning Lending Strategies with Allie Frye, our preferred vendor and longtime friend at Movement Mortgage. Allie is a senior loan officer with them, and she is an incredible resource to both us and our clients. It comes as no surprise that financing is the backbone of every single transaction, and so these conversations are incredibly important because there's nothing more valuable than hearing in real time what's happening. And no matter whether you have clients in hand or not, knowing what's happening and being able to speak on it is incredibly valuable to everyone in your field and your business. So that's the purpose of these conversations. Allie is going to bring us some information on what's actively happening. She's also going to be here to answer any questions that we have, anything we're running up against with clients or anything that we're seeing in the headlines and how to translate it into real life. Allie, thanks for being with us today. Appreciate you.
Of course. Thanks for having me as always. Yeah, and if you want something, if you're dying to talk about something specific, just throw it in the chat and we can go over it at some point. This is definitely meant for a conversation, so feel free to put your cameras on, jump in with the conversation at any point. But I know most of you want to go ahead and talk about rates, maybe. So we'll jump in there. Let me see here, present and share. So everybody can see that, yeah. Oops. There we go. So as you can see, the rates have obviously dropped if nobody's been keeping an eye on that, watching the news and whatnot. If you have talked to me before, you know that Mortgage News Daily is my favorite website as far as getting the most accurate, up-to-date, average, best case scenario type of rate. So as of this morning, it is 6.29. Again, that's best case scenario. Usually it could be a little bit more, maybe a little bit less even. I know I quoted somebody yesterday for 5.99 actually, so that was really nice. Of course, they were putting like a good amount down and had excellent credit. But anyways, that website is really good to just have as a resource when you're talking to clients. They have a really good app as well. But as you can see, the rates dropped significantly on September 5th, 6th, that week. So we've been kind of pretty steady since then. And as a lot of you know, the Fed meeting is next week, and it's still anticipated that rates will continue to come down. The Fed will obviously likely cut the rate, but that doesn't mean that rates are going to like plummet or anything. A lot of the rates that you see today are actually kind of baked into that thought that the Fed rate is going to be cut. So it doesn't necessarily have to happen after that. So that's kind of where it's probably going to stay. Again, the experts say that it'll continue to just kind of gradually come down. No huge drops. And if clients are waiting to see better rates, maybe they'll see slightly better rates, but nothing dramatic. So go out and show them those homes now and get them locked in at a good rate. Any little bit obviously helps with affordability. So if you look back at your database, depending on when they were pre-approved, you might want to just give them a nudge to see where they're at now as far as their pre-approval goes, especially if they were like maxed out even a couple months ago, or honestly even a couple weeks ago. That could have changed a lot. So it's a good like opportunity and reason to reach out and see where they're at. Also, With these rate drops, it means a lot of refinances happening. And that's just another good reason to reach out to your past clients as well. I know that you don't have to necessarily deal with refinances, but it's a good way to connect with them and not just say, hey, how's everything going? And not really have a reason to call. You'll look like a superhero if you tell them that they could possibly save hundreds of dollars a month to refinance and to at least have the conversation. And if you're kind of wondering who to reach out to, especially if you have a larger database, I would say focus on the people that bought a home in like late 2022 to mid 2023. They are going to be the ones that really have probably the higher rates, likely in the sevens and upper sixes. So they could really be the ones that benefit the most. And then obviously when you're on the phone with them, you can always ask if they know anybody that are buying and selling. So always ask for the referral. Any questions on where rates are and where they're going or anything like that?
Marilyn put a question in the chat, and then I've got a question after her. Her question was, do you offer a refinance with you, someone that works with you with or without costs? Marilyn, can you specify what you're asking?
Yes, so if somebody works with you, Ally, and they want to refinance, let's say they're closing now and they close at 6 and a quarter, and then the rates drop to 5.75, like within a year, can they refinance with you with, do you have a program to refinance without a cost or with a cost? With a cost, I'm sure, but.
Yeah, so the ones that have their loan with us already, they did the original purchase with us, then they would get a discounted rate and fee to refinance. The ones that haven't would just have the normal closing costs. I would probably say, I mean, depending on the loan amount and everything, approximately it's going to cost anywhere from like $2,000 to $5,000 usually. And that's not just lender fees, that's like the attorney fees and recording fees, and to set up a new escrow account. Of course, that will offset if, as far as their escrow account goes, because they'll get refunded whatever is in their existing escrow account. So that kind of counteracts. But we do have a discounted option, and if they are with me already, then they're already on a list of basically being in touch with. So we kind of keep track of that too. So that's the good part about, financing with movement is that we really keep tabs on that.
Okay, great. So somewhere in the $2,000 to $5,000 range is what the cost is going to be, and then some of that they'll get reimbursed. The escrows will come back out.
Yeah, we have to create a new escrow account, and then their existing one gets reimbursed to them or gets offset by reducing the payoff. So it kind of just counterbalances each other.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes, Brian.
All right. Just wanted to chime in there also and just say that, you can also have a no cost refi, right? I mean, those costs, like all the commercials you hear, those lenders are, they're offering a no cost refi, but you can do the exact same thing that those commercials are touting as well, right? I mean, you can do a refinance where the buyer does not pay any cost. It just gets either rolled into the rate or onto the loan amount, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, 99% of the time, people are not going to pay their closing costs out of pocket. They're just going to roll them into the loan amount, which is, $5,000 or $2,000 or whatever amortized over 30 years is nothing. So it really doesn't jack up their payment much by adding those into the loan amount, and it just takes away that cash to close.
Yeah, so I just figured that was worth mentioning because I know a lot of agents I mean, I'm one that, I owned a mortgage company and I still don't understand the way a lot of it works. And so I know there's a lot of confusion with agents and with especially the public about that, and you hear Miller Lending, the original no closing cost loan. And it's like, yeah, okay, but nobody works for free. It's just how they're structuring the loan. And so you can do that too. So I just wanted to make sure it was clear.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And the other like option too that some people will go with refinances is like increasing the rate a little bit to essentially offset it completely, like get a lender credit to offset the actual fees. So that's another way. I mean, obviously it's all somewhat however way you structure it, it's gonna come to you one way or another. Nothing, like you said, nothing is just free. It's just the way that.
Yeah, and just so everybody has the context, I don't know if I'm frozen up now or not, but Allie's working with me on a potential refi personally, and so like she gave me 3 different options, so you can kind of compare what the costs are, the rates, and payments, and everything. So that's just a nice option, right? It's not like you just the client gets one thing put in front of them and you hope that that's the best thing for them. Encourage them and to look at the different variations of how they could do it. And, Allie's doing that for me personally. So it's been great.
Yeah. And there's ways to calculate like the break-even cost of refinancing. I did that with somebody yesterday and it was 8 months. So even thinking about it that way, nobody's really going to sell their house or refinance again within that 8 months. So if they're going to save, usually a couple $100s at the least to go ahead and refinance, then it'll be worth it. Kate, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just curious. I know appraisals matter when it comes to refinancing. I'm curious for people, like if I have a client that purchased in early 2023 at like a either low 7 or high 6 interest rate, um, they bought new construction, and so it is possible that their home is like slightly depreciated in that amount of time just based on the other new construction around them. It would be really hit or miss on that appraisal. I was just curious how, like, if a home has depreciated on an appraisal, how that plays into a refinance and whether that would then be worth it to that person. Could you just speak on that?
Yeah, so a lot of times, and it depends on what their loan to value is and what, if it's a primary or investment property, a lot of times we can get a appraisal waiver, so we don't actually need that appraisal report to determine the value. But if one is needed, then that is a cost of about $650 to do the appraisal report. And then if it comes back low and for whatever reason we can't refinance it, say, they did put a small down payment and they're at like, 100 and whatever percent loan to value, or for whatever reason we can't do it, then they're out the $650 and at least they tried. But if it comes back low and their loan to value still makes sense to do it, like even if it's putting them in the bracket of having to pay mortgage insurance per month. I actually just dealt with that earlier a couple weeks ago, and they didn't initially have to pay mortgage insurance because they put 20% down, but because of their scenario and everything, they were at like 83% loan to value with the refi. So there's ways to still do the refinance and still save money. It just depends on each specific scenario. And a lot of times we can run all those different things that may happen up front before we even order that appraisal. With that one specifically, I gave them like the worst case scenario and best case scenario, and wherever it lands is wherever it lands, and whether they want to move forward with it or not would be their decision. But a lot of those things are kind of, and just like a purchase, we would go through all the scenarios up front, and that way they're kind of prepared for, they're not like not expecting things to happen that may not. Does that make sense?
Got it. Thanks.
Mhm. Anybody else? Okay, I can't see the chat, so you let me know if somebody chats in there. So I guess moral of the story with rates is they're still coming down, not going to be crazy drops as far as what everybody is saying, but definitely a really good reason for you to reach out to your current database looking to buy and your past database that have bought in the past. A lot of those people that are on the should I buy now or wait, whether they're worried that not necessarily rates are going to go up and they're going to be stuck, or that they're not going to, it's right now it's they're coming down, but are they going to come down more? So I feel like the people waiting now are gambling that they want the best rate, and it might not be enough to make sense to still wait. So if you're waiting for that, 5.5%, and homes are still appreciating and going up, does it make sense to wait, 6 months to possibly see that 5.5% while prices are going to go up? So a lot of those questions can be answered by just like different cost of waiting scenarios that I can run too, and really get your client to understand like the price difference and if the rate drops to 5.5, but the home appreciates, another $50,000, does that really make sense as far as the payment goes? Because at the end of the day, the payment's going to be the most important to most buyers, right? So kind of, again, doing all those upfront calculations and scenarios so they're aware and just that much more confident buying now and not waiting. And if, rates drop significantly, then like we were talking about before, there's always that option to refinance. And again, with us, you'll have that discounted fees when it comes to that. Another question I see often too is, when can we refinance? I have a borrower that hasn't even made her first payment yet that wants to refinance now. But, and yes, the rate would be lower than what they locked in and have, but going back to that like loan to value scenario, they only put 3% down. So obviously their house hasn't appreciated enough in the last month that they closed. And with the, couple $1,000s of fees, that also includes or, increases their loan to value a little bit more. So it doesn't usually make sense, even if, even though the rates are lower than what they bought it for. We always say that it's you have to wait 6 months or 6 payments before you can refinance, which is really the rule of thumb. But I mean, we can make exceptions to that rule. Obviously, there's always some kind of loophole and exception, but it has to really make sense. They have to be saving enough money for it to make sense. Their loan to value has to be there. And if it's within that 6-month period, we have to go by the actual purchase price for the value, versus even if the appraisal comes back much higher than their price point, we still have to use that actual purchase price if it's within that 6-month period. But long story short, if people ask you when they can refinance, it's usually 6 months. So that's always a big question I get. Any questions, comments, stories? That's like the biggest thing I had to talk about today. Kate, did you have anything that you think that I should bring up that you guys would have value of?
Well, I'm just always curious how rate drops and things like that are affecting buyer activity,
Mm,
especially since you're the one writing the prequals, and so maybe the offers haven't been made yet, and so you might be like the first one to start to see how dramatically things are being affected. I'd just be curious what's been going on over the past week, whether it feels significant, whether it's just a slight tick, just speaking to that, if you will.
yeah, that's a good point. I was gonna say that I pulled it up to see what the purchase application was up to, and right now it's up 6.6%. So that's good. Obviously, if it was zero, then nobody would be applying for purchases. So that's kind of where that we look at that percentage, and you guys can usually just kind of Google it or chat GPT it or whatever. But that's a good indication that there is more activity for buyers going out there and purchasing. And I've definitely seen firsthand a lot of people not only initially talk about buying and getting out there, but also people that were on the fence or weren't that motivated, I guess, from even earlier this year, that are now really kind of picking up the pace and really wanting to go ahead and find something.
Before we had hopped on this call, or before you'd gotten on, a few agents had mentioned wanting to know what you had available for sellers. If there's any incentives that you can provide for existing homeowners whose listings aren't moving currently, will you just speak to that? And then I'd also mentioned like the signs that you have that they can put in the yard. Will you just speak to all of that?
Yeah, I see a couple people on here that I have talked to about their listings. If they want to kind of comment or whatnot, feel free. But um, give me a call if you have a listing, and we can kind of figure out what we can do as far as like maybe a dollar amount or making it general as far as just lender incentives in general. That obviously giving money away is always a good thing when it comes to the buy side of things. But we can also make custom flyers to put out so they can really, when the buyers walk in, they can really see what that payment looks like and what maybe that, $3,500 or whatever it is could buy. It certainly would get them into the 5% range for sure, at this point with where rates are at now. So if I've done it previously for you guys, then certainly reach back out again, and then we can update that flyer or whatnot. But I can make custom flyers for each of your listings, and then we have the yard signs. I think they're in the office. And if not, I can order more, but you can put up a yard sign as long as your sellers are okay with it, obviously. That just, has, financing available for me that just kind of piques their interest even more. But I know agents have put it in the MLS in the agent remarks section, and have reached out to like the buyer's agents that have already showed the house if the home's been on the market for a while, just to kind of urge them to tell their buyers that here are these incentives and whatnot. So
Cool. Thank you, Allie. That's it on my end. Anyone else have any questions? Now is your chance. Jen DeCourcy said, I have a listing coming soon and would like yard signs and flyers for it.
awesome. Yeah, Jen, I'll get with you after this, and you can tell me the details and we can come up with something.
Cool.
I think Brian can probably speak to that, whether the yard signs are still in the office, in the Raleigh office.
I didn't see
Please
them when I was there last.
excuse the way I look. I'm driving and I look like a mess.
We love you.
I did have a question, and this is totally like out in left field. So if you don't want to talk about it, that's totally fine. We could talk about it later. But just for my own curiosity, I've been hearing about loans that you can get to help your elderly parents. And so it's basically like doing like an investment property, but then like that I would pay for but like at a discounted rate because it would be a home for my mother.
So I did that personally for my mom,
Oh, okay.
actually. So I've done it for clients, but personally, I have actually done that. But yes, you basically buy a house for your parent or parents, and it's considered a primary residence. So you get the rate as a primary residence, so less than an investment property, and your down payment, if you wanted to put, a little down payment, it can be as little as 5% down for, a conventional. So, yes, it's way more beneficial than just buying an investment property and financing it that way, assuming one of your parents is going to, and we don't like go knock on the door later to see if they're living there or anything. It's really just a matter of you signing a letter of explanation saying that you're purchasing this house for your parent that just can't qualify for it right now, usually because of fixed income or whatnot. So it's easy peasy. Maryland, the flat or the yard signs, I can send you a picture of it. It's really just like Movement Mortgage, Allie Frye, my contact information, financing available or something. It's something pretty simple, and it's one of those like smaller ones that you just shove into the ground. It's nothing crazy.
Okay, alongside the other sign. So
Yeah.
just a little, okay. Okay, great.
Yeah, and obviously just ask your sellers first. But if they're not in the office, then I can get more, and you can even just send me the address and I'll drive by and throw it in there.
Okay, that sounds great.
Yeah, and Jenny, same thing. If you want to just reach out, shoot me a text or give me a call and let me know the details and the addresses. I'll be happy to send you some flyers and signs.
I'll text Kelly when we get off of this to confirm whether or not they're sitting in the Raleigh
Okay,
office.
perfect.
Maryland, just for reference, they're like the size of an open house sign.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so like a rider? No, just a
No.
regular sign in an individual, like just a regular open house. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Any other questions, you guys? All right. Thanks for joining us this morning. I appreciate you guys as always. Thanks for working hard in your business and for your clients. If you've got any questions, reach out directly to Allie. I'll get this recording out. You guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.